I want to start by talking to you very briefly about the university I come from. As Professor Ram just mentioned, the society you keep is very important, and I think it's helpful to you as we talk about your image and your image as a leader in your own state, and also your leader in the country, your leadership in the country. It's important that you know how where I come from talks about leadership. So first, let me talk about that, and then we'll go from there. The University of Notre Dame, the location I come from, was founded in 1842 by an immigrant French priest, and we're a comprehensive four-year university with a College of Arts and Letters, Science, Engineering, Law, Business, Architecture, and Global Affairs. We have approximately 8,000 undergraduates and 4,000 graduate students. We're located in South Bend, Indiana, which is about 90 minutes southeast of Chicago, and we aspire to be one of the world's premier global research universities. Indian students make up our second largest international student population, and as you probably know, Indian students are the largest population in the U.S. for international students. So that is important as we continue this discussion together. Notre Dame is known, and I think this is partially why MIT WPU invited us to come. We're known in part for our international leadership. To give you a sense of the scope and breadth of that work, we are responsible for monitoring the Colombian peace accords. We have a globally respected peace matrix. Our president serves on the U.S. Commission on Presidential Debates. So we have every 4 years a presidential election in the U.S. We have a commission that oversees those debates and works to promote civil society through civil discourse. And our leader is the leader of that group. We work with governmental organizations on research focusing on the common good. We have a center in Mumbai led by my colleague to my left, Dhiraj Mehra, and he works on research projects both here in Mumbai and Maharashtra and in Telangana. And we will be receiving, as a university, future delegations of this group, bringing 30 to 50 legislators a year. So I hope that some of the people in this room will one day come to Notre Dame very soon. I've been asked to talk about leadership and your identity, your image, and I'd like to move to talking about that by starting with a quotation from Dr. Ambedkar. From his letter, Annihilation of Caste, in 1936, he said, "Democracy is not merely a form of government, it is essentially an attitude of respect and reverence towards fellow men." When you think about your image, you should come and start, I would suggest, from that place of respect for your constituents, for your stakeholders, for the people from your town, from your state, from the country. And it's that shared value from the University of Notre Dame about having an attitude of respect and recognizing the dignity of every human person that allows us to be leaders. Finally, Om Birla reminded us that we need to act with integrity and inspiration. In fact, Professor Ram, you used the word integrity just recently in your remarks. We need to be transparent and accountable. And the other question that Professor Ram asked us was, how do we know we're trusted? Part of your image as a leader is that you are trusted. So let me tell you very briefly about the guiding principles of leadership and image at the University of Notre Dame. We remind ourselves daily to stay true to our mission and vision and our values. We remind ourselves that we lead by listening to and hearing from those that we serve. We always communicate with transparency and honesty. We always try to be in good formation. You heard at the beginning, one of the questions this session should answer is, how do we make sure we're not bickering with one another? How do we make sure that we're leaders with people who are different from ourselves or who have different political viewpoints than ourselves? We work internally within our university by actually asking difficult questions of one another, not being afraid to shy away from the truth, and being comfortable with disagreeing. By being in good formation, we can then know how to act and make change. We encourage feedback and we learn from past experiences, and we always remind ourselves that we need to be a force for good in the world. I want to end my remarks And hopefully this will spark discussion by asking you some questions or sharing with you some questions that we ask ourselves. And these are questions that have been coming up again and again in our sessions in the last 2 days together. How do you as a legislator encourage open dialogue and inclusivity in your constituents and with one another in the legislature? How do you recognize the dignity of every human person in your actions and in your interactions with one another and with the wider world and in your policymaking? Do you model civil discourse to one another and the constituents you serve? Do you create transparent mechanisms for honest conversations with colleagues? And how do you foster a creative and bold vision that promotes continuous improvement and progress that can solve the world's challenges? You need to be able to answer those questions to be consistent with yourself and with your constituents, and you need to be able to articulate that through social media, through interactions with your the members of your community. And we can talk now about how you might want to think about doing that. But the key value that I would ask us to consider is that we make sure that we're understanding that image comes first and foremost from character, from values, and from mission. And that will serve you well in your work as a legislator and policymaker. It'll also serve you well to think about the common good. I want to end by a quote from Rabindranath Tagore. My wife and I at our wedding had Tagore poetry read, so he means a lot to us. And I want to end by saying he wrote in his Gitanjali 82 from 1910, this is the literature professor in me coming out, forgive me. He wrote, "We have no time to lose. And having no time, we must scramble for our chances. You have very few chances to make your image count. You have very few opportunities to show your leadership and show how it can be transformative. So let's talk together about how we can do that, and I'm excited for the conversation. Thank you again for having me.